Welcome into our latest Seattle Seahawks mailbag. Let's dive right into some questions, beginning with some Jamal Adams trade ideas. First up from Jeffrey, then another one coming up here shortly. Would Hollister, a second and a fourth, be a fair trade for Jamal Adams? Simply put, no. Hollister doesn't carry that much value. You got to begin with a first. And Morgan Danielson has another trade idea that, to be quite blunt, I like even less than the previous one. Jamal Adams for Trey Flowers and a third-round pick. I get the idea of trying to get Jamal Adams on Seattle. It makes sense for them. But a third-round pick is one part of the alleged asking price for the Jets. The other part is a first-round pick. There is not a planet, and I'm not even convinced that there's a multi-universe out there, or a alternate universe out there, where you could get a first-round pick for Trey Flowers. Like, that's just not remotely close to what his value is. The Jets don't want to trade away Adams. They have plenty of leverage here with the way his contract is set up. They are not going to give away Adams for pennies on the dollar. If you want Adams, I think understandably so, there's a desire to add him to the Seattle Seahawks team. It's got to begin with a first-round pick or at least a premium asset, and that's probably not even KJ Wright either. I think it has to start with a first-round pick. So with that in mind, I want you guys to scroll down to the comments section and put together the best offer you've got to get Jamal Adams onto the Seattle Seahawks. I think it's a first-round pick and some change. I'm curious what you guys can put together here down there in the comments section. Now, coming up on today's Seahawks mailbag, we're going to talk about some free agent targets like Logan Ryan. We will debate whether Antonio Brown or Josh Gordon is the best fit for Seattle. And we'll talk about some Chris Jones trade ideas. All these questions, of course, coming from this new Seahawks YouTube channel. Back to Morgan now. And you redeemed yourself, Morgan. Is there a small chance of Logan Ryan signing with Seattle? Absolutely. In fact, I wonder if it's a little bit bigger than a small chance. The Seahawks and their cornerback depth chart is kind of murky at the moment. Logan Ryan wanted a lot of money. He has not come close to getting what he asked for. On one hand, for Ryan, the raw numbers were awesome, right? He put up these great stats, all of that. But it's kind of a double-edged sword. I wanted to see 113 tackles, a bunch of sacks, tackles for loss, forced fumbles, 8 takeaways. Wow, he's worth that $10 million asking price. Yes, but the but part here is that Logan Ryan was actually targeted more than any cornerback in the NFL last year and allowed nearly 1,000 yards on 70% completion percentage. That's a lot. That's not great, and that's why no one's offered him $10 million. But Seattle does have a need at the nickel corner spot. Now, maybe if Trey Flowers emerges, you can, on nickel sets, put Quentin Dunbar in the nickel role. I kind of want to see what Ugo Amadi has. And ideally, I think you would have liked to see what these guys, how they were performing, during OTAs. But there were no OTAs. So the evaluation period is much different. So if Amadi is not great at camp early on, I think you could see Seattle look into adding Logan Ryan. Is that something you guys want, though? Type 1 for yes or type 2 for no. Cast your votes for me in the comments section. We go now to Derrick Garcia. I hope that's how you pronounce your first name, my man. Should the Seahawks start Griffin at linebacker? And although Griffin is the best user linebacker in Madden by a wide margin, does not make him the best starting linebacker for Seattle. I like him quite a bit. There is a role for him. I don't think it's a starting role for him, though. KJ Wright is there as long as he's under contract. Bobby Wagner, but you just spent a first-round pick on Jordan Brooks. So if you're going to use that 3 linebacker set and you're not moving on from anybody, it's got to be Wright, Wagner, Brooks. And frankly, I think Cody Barton ends up getting reps over Griffin in terms of base packages at the linebacker spot. I wouldn't mind, though, finding a way to use Griffin, given he can blitz pretty well, as almost a sub-package player. Now, we've told you guys the deal here before, but I want to remind everyone who's only just subscribed. The more subscribers, the more views that our Seahawks channel gets, the more videos we can do for you guys. So if you want this Seahawks channel to truly become a full-time channel here at Chat Sports, you guys got to subscribe. And you know what? Tell a friend as well. Let's go now to KP. If Wilson, meaning Russell Wilson's game, does decline, is there a chance Seattle trades him, and where could he possibly land? First off, I'm pretty sure this question is sacrilegious. Like, that's not okay to ask. My argument is this. I haven't seen any sign of decline from Russell Wilson. In fact, I've seen the completion percentage go up. I've seen the yards stay pretty much average. The interceptions have dropped down, and the touchdowns have been above 30. I see no signs of decline in Russell Wilson's game. And because of that, I'm not trying to move on from him. I'm keeping him on this team. And with the way the contract is set up, if he does decline, you'd probably just end up cutting him in a couple of years. So for Seattle, you have a young franchise guy. I'm not really even going to entertain well, maybe they should trade him, despite allegedly Seattle considering that just a couple of years ago. And if you're on my side, go get yourself a Russell Wilson jersey. They are 25% off. Chatsports.com/Russ Jersey. Again, that link will be in the comments and in the description, both the gray and the more navy blue jerseys there at chatsports.com/Russ Jersey. Should the Seahawks sign Antonio Brown, and is it worth it? Now, that's a very, very difficult question to ask. The signing part does make some sense. From Antonio Brown's perspective, especially, he wants to play for a good team. He wants to play for a good quarterback. The Seahawks clearly fit that mold with Russell Wilson and, being a very good team. But Brown does remain a pretty significant risk when it comes to he's kind of a crazy person. Now, he seemed to have gotten things back on the straight and narrow, at least remained in the headlines as of late. But that is a gamble for Seattle. If you're going all in this year, trying to win with Wilson, thinking you're in the middle of your window, Antonio Brown does make some sense. But there is some risk involved, not from the money perspective per se, but more from he's going to be a bit of a handful to deal with. So do you want Antonio Brown? Type AB for yes or type FAB for no. A classic question here at Chat Sports. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. Now, one of the reasons you guys might type in FAB is because you want Josh Gordon instead, who, of course, played for Seattle last year and seemed to fit pretty well with Russell Wilson. I do think there is if not good chance, at least a chance of Josh Gordon ending back up in Seattle with the Seahawks and reuniting, because he fared well. He got along well with the team, with Wilson. Does he have the same upside of Antonio Brown? No, of course not. But I'd argue perhaps his floor is a little bit higher, given that Antonio Brown burned through 3 teams in less than a year last year. So I think there's a good argument for Josh Gordon. There's also a good argument for Antonio Brown. Just depends on what type of risk-reward balance do you want to have. So pick one for me. Type JG if you want Josh Gordon on the Seattle Seahawks, or type AB if you want Antonio Brown instead. I think I actually lean toward Josh Gordon, but it is a fair toss-up. I know many Seahawks fans want Antonio Brown. I'm going to make that the pinned comment on this video. So scroll down there and cast your votes. JG or AB. Let's go now to Jamie. Would Seattle consider spending the extra money next offseason to sign a premier back like Derrick Henry instead of re-signing Chris Carson? Great question. On one hand, I see the rationale behind it. This is a Seahawks team that really, really, really wants to run the football. They want to be actively involved in that area, and they want to pound the rock, especially early on in games. And Derrick Henry clearly would be a significant upgrade over Chris Carson. But I figure at minimum, Henry's looking at $15 million per year. Is that a price tag that the Seattle Seahawks actually want to pay? I'm not sure they want to pay $10 million for a back. I think they'd be more willing to continue to spend premium picks on the position instead and not devote that caliber of money. If they are committed to really, really being a run-first team, Derrick Henry makes some sense. If they want to focus on the draft pick side, there will be some good players in the draft. I think that actually might make a little bit more sense for the Seattle Seahawks. As you guys should know by now, we have launched our brand new Seahawks-only YouTube channel. You see the link there below. You can go check it out, youtube.com/SeahawksTV. We have a version of this current mailbag up on that channel right now. In fact, it actually has some bonus questions and is ad-free, so go check it out. Subscribe today, youtube.com/SeahawksTV. Next up from, that's a whole lot of O's in there, M76. Cut Abwehi and trade for another right tackle, Jason Peters, and use Shell as a backup. He's got no chance versus the edge guys in the division. I don't think you meant trade Peters as a free agent, but we'll operate under the assumption of signing Jason Peters. I actually like that idea for the Seattle Seahawks. Brandon Shell is passable, but when you're playing against the Chandler Joneses of the world, when he gets lined up against Bosa or Ford or whoever the Niners throw out there, it's going to be tough. That's not going to be a favorable matchup for the Seattle Seahawks. I don't think Abwehi's any good at all. I would totally cut him, sign Jason Peters, let Shell be the best swing tackle in the NFL. That works. I like that idea quite a bit for the Seattle Seahawks. So, my friend, I think you've got a very good plan there for Seattle if that's a route they end up choosing. Now, of course, you want more offensive line help to protect your franchise superstar quarterback. That is Russell Wilson. In fact, his jerseys are on sale right now. 25% off at chatsports.com/Russ jersey. They've got the blue and they've got the gray. I like the blue a little bit more. I'll put that link in the comments and the description for you guys. It's chatsports.com/Russ jersey. Over now to Daniel. Should Seattle trade a first rounder and CJ Prosise for Chris Jones? So, first round pick, good start. Prosise isn't on the team anymore. He's not on the roster. He doesn't count, and it's not like you're going to sign and then trade him. So I'm going to pretend the Prosise part isn't included there. The first rounder, Daniel, is a good starting point, I believe, for a Chris Jones trade. If you're Seattle, you got to figure that pick's going to be in the later 20s or even further than that, in the 30s potentially. So my trade idea is this. You give up that first round pick, and then kind of sort of like how that Frank Clark trade went down, you give a future third round pick. So you get to keep your 2021 third. You send a 2022 third round pick, which again should be 80s, 90s at worst. You're probably going to be looking at a late third round pick. So who says no to this trade? You have to pay Chris Jones about $20 million. Maybe that's an issue for Seattle as well. But to get an impact defensive tackle, passing downs, you pull Poona Ford off the field, you throw Chris Jones, Jaron Reed in there, that's a dynamic 1-2 punch. And yeah, your edges aren't great, but you know what? Your interior pressure is not going to be one you want to mess around with. That'd be a good deal for Seattle if you're willing to give up the picks and, of course, the money involved. To Morgan Danielson we go now with a great question that I love. Who is the worst draft bust by the Seahawks in the 21st century? Great question here. The way I looked at it, I kind of narrowed it down to 4 guys. All of them have been drafted since 2004, by the way. Marcus Tubbs, the defensive tackle, I'm pretty sure was top 10 pick. He didn't live up to expectations. Lawrence Jackson, well, he wasn't very good. And then part of a very bad stretch of drafting, 2009, Aaron Curry, the linebacker out of Wake, dubbed as the safest pick in the NFL draft. And then he busted, which proved once and for all there is no such thing as a safe pick in the NFL draft. For the draft capital invested, you can make a really good argument for Aaron Curry, top 5 pick, and didn't come close to living up to his expectations. My argument, though, actually, would be for Malik McDowell. Because, A, I didn't like that pick at the time. Seattle traded down several times, then took him. But he never got on the field because of that accident that injured him. Never made an impact. So Curry and McDowell are the 2 arguments for me. I know Curry, you invested more in him. I would actually go, though, with Malik McDowell. But I do want to hear from you guys as well. Since 2001, 21st century, who is the biggest Seattle Seahawks bust? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Which draft pick, and I, of course, focused on early round guys, which is, I think, fair, was the worst move by Seattle? We know the best one, Wilson, but who was the worst one? Sound off for me in the comments section. Let's go to Andrew now. I've been seeing rumors about Pete Carroll retiring. He is getting old after all. So how many years does he have left as our head coach? Now, Andrew, I think the rumors you're referring to, there was some field goals, the SB Nation site speculation around Pete Carroll. It does make some sense. There is some dot connecting. A, he's going to turn 69, a very nice age, but a very old age, before the 2020 season. and his contract expires after 2021. Look, Pete Carroll looks incredible for his age. I think it's very fair to say he is certainly a young 69. But at a certain point, I do think he'll end up calling it a career. I think that watch begins after this year if there is no extension for that 2021 season, if they don't want to make him a lame duck coach, if you will. But I am curious to see which route the Seahawks end up pursuing when it comes to Pete Carroll and how much longer he'll be there. I think, look, he's going to retire at some point, but I think he got at least 2 more years. Then the rumors will really get going around Pete Carroll's future.